The Diablo 3 beta is finally over on the PC, and the full game is coming to console today. No, I'm just kidding. G'day, ZiggyD here, and that is the tired joke that people like to throw around quite a bit whenever we talk about Diablo 3 on the console. But in reality, the console port is pretty good. I got to play it for a few hours in Sydney, and I was very impressed at how well it's ported over. But in this video, let's talk about the actual differences between the console and PC version, because there's a few extra differences that have been uncovered by myself and other people who have played the game early that weren't actually listed as major differences, but we'll also go over some of the listed ones as well. So let's jump straight into it. First up, there is no latency on the console version because you can play offline single player and 4-player co-op, up to 4-player co-op. Now this is really cool, especially as an Australian myself. I'm used to playing with 200 to 300 latency, so to get on and play the same game with no latency is pretty exciting. And also being able to play co-op on the same screen is pretty good if you have, some friends or a partner or a family member, brother, sister, mother, father, whatever, that you want to play the game with. It's great to be able to do it from the same screen as well, without buying multiple copies of the game as well. So that's a pretty cool change, I think, and it will be a major reason for a lot of people to buy the game, I think. Next up, we have dodge rolls. Now, while essentially you can dodge roll by flicking the right analog stick and in any direction, and you'll dodge roll in that direction. This was kind of added into the game to combat the slightly less precise controls of the console, and to give you a way to move around, reposition, and also evade enemy attacks a little bit better. So while rolling, you only take 1 damage from hits, and it seems to work really, really well. It's actually really, really fun. I probably spent more time dodge rolling than I did actually fighting in the console version, just because I really enjoyed it. Now, you can also dodge roll through barrels and doors, and this is extremely fun. In the PC version, unless you're wearing something like Firewalkers, which puts a ground fire effect down, you have to actually punch or shoot down every door that you want to go through. Being able to dodge roll through them is a huge quality of life improvement, actually, and it felt really good. And rolling through barrels is pretty fun as well. Next up, dodge rolls can also break Jailer, the Jailer affix on rare and elite mobs, rare and blue mobs packs essentially. And this is pretty good. This is pretty interesting. Essentially, it means Jailer is obviously not much of an issue on the console version, but as long as you're paying attention, you can dodge roll out of them, so that's a little bit less dangerous. Next up, we have the new system, Nephalem Glory. Now, Nephalem Glory is a orb that drops rarely off mobs. Now, I say rarely, but in the console version, we encountered this quite often in our 3 hours or so of playing, so it's not too rare, but might be something that drops every 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. Now, when you pick up one of these golden orbs, you get faster move speed, and whenever you attack enemies, they tend to explode, so you deal extra damage, and it's a pretty cool effect. It looks pretty cool. Now, when you pick up that initial orb, you'll have this timer for the duration of the buff, and you can extend the duration of that buff by picking up health globes. And you can also stack effectiveness of the buff by picking up additional Nephalem Glory orbs within that time. So essentially, if you're fighting and killing enemies fast, you pick up your Nephalem Glory, and you pick up a heap of health globes, extending the duration out, then you pick up more Nephalem Glory, it's going to get fast. You're going to get faster, you're going to do more powerful explosions, and you're going to kill mobs faster, and it's going to have this really avalanche-y sort of effect, and it should make it really fun and fast to clear zones once you're actually stacking this up. And I think it'll make this kind of meta game for farming at endgame in the console. That should be really fun as well. It's along with dodge rolling, it was one of those things that were put in there to combat some of the slowness that the console version might have, and it seems to work really well. It's a pretty fun buff to play with. Next up, we have no auction house. Now, this could be seen as a removal of a feature, because the auction house is indeed a feature. It allows you to purchase, gear, it allows you to sell gear, make real-life money even on the PC version, but this will not be on the console version, to the cheers of many, it seems. Basically, because the auction house is in the PC version, it means that it's very easy to get better gear from the auction house as compared to actually finding it yourself. Now, because of this, the console version has been toned to make drops better for you, make self-found play more viable, and a lot of people seem to be really keen on this idea. So that's overall seemed to be a pretty good change between the console and PC version. No auction house to affect the economy, essentially. Next up, in line with that, drop rates overall have been decreased, but increased in quality. So essentially you're going to see less drops overall, but each one of those drops on average is going to be better than they would be on the PC version. So you have to sort through less trash basically, and that's something just to encourage self-found play and make it a little bit less awkward to deal through tons of loot on the console version. Now, the console version may also feature a smart loot system that will be coming to the PC version later. Essentially, this means that drops are more tailored to your character, so you're more likely to get strength if you're a barb, for example. And this isn't confirmed yet, but it does seem to be the case, so it's going to require a bit more testing. Maybe in a few days we'll know if this is actually the case. But it seems like it does feature some sort of smart loot system. Now, next up, items have been buffed overall, it seems. Legendaries have been posted that have much higher stats than is even available on the PC version. You know, we're seeing Manticores with dexterity much higher than what you can get on the PC version, much higher damage and things like that. Now also, legendaries will drop scaled to the level of the mob that you kill them. So that means if you kill a mob and it drops a Leoric Signet, and it's a higher level than the base level of Leoric Signet, that Leoric Signet will actually be scaled up, so it'll have more strength available on it, for example. And this means that your legendaries are just going to be more relevant, and it's a cool change. Now, this is also something that's going to be coming to the PC as part of the Loot 2.0 system, so it appears that it's been put in the console, and that probably supports the other idea as well, that there might be a smart loot drop system in the game as well. So just overall, items seem to be more powerful in the console version. Now, this could actually be a negative thing in the long run, because it means if loot overall is more powerful, it's going to be much easier to get to endgame and farm the highest difficulty without, in easy mode, essentially. If your gear is 1.5 times stronger than you would have in the PC version, even using the auction house, then the game's probably going to get pretty easy pretty fast. But that's assuming there hasn't been any difficulty increase in the higher levels of console, which just hasn't been tested yet. So we don't know for certain, but that could be something that reduces the longevity of endgame and console, perhaps. Now, rare items are automatically identified in the console version as well. You only need to identify legendaries, which I think is a really cool change. They did add the Book of Cain into the PC version to make rare identifiers much faster, but now you don't even have to identify them in the console, and that's pretty good because it just reduces the time you're spending in menus. And when you do get those legendaries, you still need to ID those, but that's kind of fun because it's kind of like unwrapping a present, so that's pretty cool. Next up, this is a little one, but one I find really interesting and one that I kind of wish was in the PC version. A lot of quests also now give items as rewards. This just makes questing much more satisfying to get like a little, random prize item. Pretty cool stuff. I'd like to see that in the PC version as well. Now, let's just talk about a few of the drawbacks on console version, because there are some minor ones. AoE abilities are a little bit harder to use well on the console version. Essentially, they're automatically targeted and centered on a mob. So if you are casting an AoE ability, it will be centered on whatever mob you have auto-targeted at the time. Now, you can manually target these abilities by holding L2 and moving the analog stick, but it's a little bit more cumbersome than the PC, obviously, where you can just click where you want to target those AoE abilities. So overall, AoE abilities are a little bit harder to use effectively. Now, there's also slightly less precise controls. Auto-targeting works really well from my experience with it, but it does mean that you aren't targeting the exact mob that you might want to be targeting, for example. Like, if you want to target a zombie that's slightly behind one, you're probably going to be likely to be auto-targeting the one just in front of it. Overall, doesn't seem to be too much of a problem, and there's slightly less mob density in the console version overall. They've been toned back a little bit, so it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, but it is a little bit less precise. Essentially, you're trading off some of the precision for more action-oriented combat, which it felt really good, to be honest, but could be seen as a drawback if you really prefer that more precise and strategic gameplay. Overall, also, because of the AoE targeting, I have to say that the Witch Doctor is a little bit more awkward to play than he is in the PC version. A lot of the time with the Witch Doctor abilities, you're going to target your AoE abilities in front of mobs, but with the console version, you're more likely going to be targeting that on them. Now, because they move a little bit slower, it's not too much of an issue, but it just doesn't feel quite as good on the PC version, I think. So overall, the console version looks to be very impressive. I had a ton of fun playing it in Sydney for the few hours I played with Two Awesome Gamers and the Gamer Sheep. You can actually check out the footage that we got from Sydney. I'll put a link in the description below. And we also did a first impressions review there as well. So if you're still unsure about whether you should buy the game, you might want to check that out as well. But I'm looking forward to getting my copy in the mail, hopefully sometime today or perhaps tomorrow, because looking forward to playing some same screen co-op action. Anyway, I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.